Welcome to Maritime with Ezinne. My name is Ezinne Azuna. We'll be bringing you a new entrant in the maritime industry.
We are getting people to realize that maritime does not start and end with the seas.
We'll be looking at the very important transport document.
85% of the Earth's surface is water.
ABC of shipping is the first port of call because that gives you the whole knowledge of what to see.
Nothing done by man is perfect. You can't give 100% where goods are cleared out of customs control.
The key job of customs anywhere in the world is trade facilitation, not revenue drive.
The former minister, Maritime, resigned to pursue his his presidential ambition, and therefore I was left with the ministry to oversee its activities. And so, to do that, I needed to take stock of exactly where the ministry, where we are with all our various projects and in line with government policies to see that we're still in line with them. So the first thing I did was to have briefings by all 13 departments and units of the ministry, who used that opportunity to let me know what each of the departments were up to, with staffing, their requirements and their needs, as well as the agencies that they were supervising. Then after that, we now had the agencies themselves come up to Abuja with their team to come and give us both a full brief as well as an executive summary of exactly what was going on in line with their act and also in line with the medium-term policy of the government, as well as projects and anything that needed immediate attention that needed my immediate attention, and also to let us know some of the things that they wanted to take effect. And then also just to let us know the problems they're having. After having done that, we decided to embark on this visit to see some of the problems, some of the issues that they brought up, and decided to start first with the Lagos area before we embark on all the other areas within the maritime. We've done the same thing with rail. We've had the rail NRC come up, and as well as the Department on Rail, to talk about our ongoing projects or the various projects and to see where we are, and also to talk about issues that are particular and peculiar to rail, like for instance rail security. So we've done that. And road, of course, we are in line, and I was overseeing road, so I've been well briefed on that already. So we felt it was important to come and see these problems and some of these issues that the agencies that I mentioned and the directors. So we came, and it was important, and I'm very glad that we did, because we saw firsthand some of the state of the port. We thought we knew how bad it was, but obviously seeing is believing, and it's actually worse than what we thought. It's come to the point now where it's actually dangerous. One of the terminal operators was telling us how it looked as if a bomb had hit it, and how equipment actually fell through into that. Very dangerous, and yet it's still being used, and so it's critical that we find some solution to that. Apapa is no better. Every time we talk about, Tinkan is in such a terrible state, implying that if Apapa was much better. Apapa hasn't gotten as bad. It is bad. It hasn't gotten as bad. I think it was very disappointing and sad, and extremely sad to see the state of the roads of the port. Some of this has started in 2018. 34.5 kilometer road to take this long is just completely unacceptable. Then we also went to go and see the C4I and went to Kirikiri to see what was going on. There was this issue about wreck removal and how Massa wasn't moving fast enough, but we saw the evidence where we saw some of the things. It was good to sit there and see exactly what was happening vis-a-vis Deep Blue, and also what came out of that is there has to be better synergy between NIMASA and the Navy. This isn't a core NIMASA, or should not be the only NIMASA focus. Not as the DG and his team are trying to do other things, we can take a bit of a breather now that we're off the red list, and now that for the past 5 months, in 28 years, we have not had any attack. And so we see how we can continue to improve that. And this has come from a closer relationship between the Nigerian Navy and the Ministry of Transportation and the NASA. So that was good to see in real terms how that was working. And then we now decided that it was important to have town hall meetings with the stakeholders to find out from them where they were, where they felt they ought to be, and where government ought to be. And so many issues came out with them. We had, I think, 3 days of stakeholder meetings with the different segments and sectors within the maritime domain. So that's the reason why we came. And we've done that. We've taken stock from them. We now know the critical issues that they face. It was good to have a meeting with the barge operators. So much has come out of that as well. We realized that, in trying to make their businesses easy, we've actually having to deal with three agencies under the same umbrella. The Ministry of Transport is a bit cumbersome and a bit expensive and time consuming. So, if we hadn't come on such a visit, we probably would never have gotten that feedback from the stakeholders. So, and it was good. I was happy that the stakeholders showed that they actually did really appreciate such a visit and the opportunity to interact with us. So much so that they asked that, okay, we must do this more often and do it every quarter. We have to go back and see how we can ensure that we imprint that in the Ministry of Transportation going forward. The country itself has grown way beyond those ports. But still, it's important that we position those 2 ports as best as possible to rehabilitate them, because of a lot of investment going on within those ports. Another area of priority is the cabotage CBFF, and both ensuring and enforcing the Cabotage Act. And the real question is which comes first, the chicken or the egg, where the fund is, where vis-a-vis cabotage. Because truly we had hoped that a decade plus after the enactment of the Act, that we will have seen a different landscape vis-a-vis cabotage, where more Nigerians will have gone into shipping and into that business. But sadly, that's not the case. If anything, we've actually, you could see that a lot more Nigerians, because of the hardship and for various reasons, have actually lost a lot of vessels and what have you. And the foreign companies, you see them, they're still here within our waters transacting business. So the question is, okay, we now say that we need to get local content to do that. The question is, or the problem is local content, but we don't have the vessels. So it's critical that we get the CBFF up available for the sector to take advantage of. Then it becomes easier to now enforce the Cabotage Act. Again, though, one thing that we must always bear in mind is just to ensure it's about standards and having integrity in the types of vessels, in the documentation, certification. Because so long as we don't do that, we leave room for all the foreign companies and the foreign ships to come in, because they're not supposedly cannot compete at the standards that's required. So that's also and that automatically leads into things like the ship registry. And I would have said before maritime security, but we've done well. We can pat ourselves on the back of it, and now come back and focus. We focus primarily in ensuring that the maritime domain within Nigeria is back on focus in ensuring things like seafarers and ensuring the crewing of all these vessels. That's also a very, very important aspect. I think we have always, talked about the fact that a procurement process, it's like a tap. We need to just ease it a bit without compromising on due process. But we could look at ways. I mean, from beginning to, and I remember with the Minister for Works, I said it takes about 13 weeks or so. But 13 weeks in a 52-week year is a long time. And so it would seem that FEC and the government have tried to look as much as ways of shortening and quickening things. So you have a lot of this selective tendering to allow such projects. Can you imagine if we didn't even have that as an option? You can just imagine how much longer it would take. Well, I mean, like anything, nothing is cast in stone. It's to keep remodifying and readjusting and looking at how quickly can things move. Sometimes we definitely things could move a lot faster because we need to ensure that we check that issues and processes are followed. The transport policy, there's been a draft for the past 20 years of that policy, and the Muhammad Buhari government is actually the state of ensuring and passing that effect. A FEC committee was created that was headed by the Vice President just to tweak certain areas that some of the other agencies, particularly Ministry of Works, were not particularly happy with. And so we're at that stage now to go back to Cabinet with the report to the committee on issues we've agreed with. We've had many, should I say, in such a better word, robust meetings headed by the Vice President, who I must commend, exceptionally patient to all the discussions that went on. So that's going to happen, and it's absolutely crucial. It's amazing that the country is not just Nigeria and never had a transport policy, because people take that policy and now from that policy you also come up with a maritime policy. There's been a draft maritime policy, we've looked at a policy. That is the bedrock, the foundation on which people who are looking at going into things in that sector, that industry can build on. So very soon those ones are going to come up. I assure you that within the next few months we will have in Nigeria, and I will invite you on the day this passes. But we look at ease of doing business in Nigeria as against something. We're looking at it as against something. So if you look at it as against our neighboring countries, then you realize that this is a major hindrance to growth, a major hindrance to business. And what's the biggest problem? Like one of the things that came out from our visits, take for instance the barge operators. And remember when the barge operators were talking about the different agencies just under the Ministry of Transportation in which they have to deal with. 3 agencies for one barge operator. And so we have to sit back and look at how to ease that. Now, I said it there that we're going to have a just one stop. Having said it though, I must now ensure that it's done. So that is one of the things that, of course, that we're hoping to come back. I don't believe we should take any long time to do that. Now that's not to easing their problems, so that's just the beginning. And that's a drop in the ocean for them. And look at it. And literally, sometimes is to ensure that all of us, right at the top echelon of government, truly understand what the typical importer goes through. At the stages, the number of stages. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to try and do for fellow members of cabinet and for all those different NDAs to actually realize that step 1, you wake up, you do this, you fill the first form. You can't get anybody on a line on the phone because there's no phone. So it's important for us to articulate the different steps, and hopefully that will make it much easier. Now, not using or having scanners at the ports in this day and age with that kind of volume is a concern, because at Tingham they don't even have supposedly no scanners, and that they're only able to do so with over 100% inspection. And so in a day, how many containers can you inspect? Apparently on average plus or minus 50 containers. You and I saw the number of containers that have been there. I mean, it can't work like that. So we need to take a decision. The truth of the matter is, if we're going to be really blunt and frank, we just need to take a decision. What is it that we want to achieve as a country? What is it that we want to do? Do we really want to be the port of destination? If the answer is yes, then we know what to do. We might decide, yes, although I doubt it, we might decide, you know what, that's not going to be our main focus. But I can tell you here, as the Minister of State for Transportation, that what we want is to be the port of destination. And therefore we have to do everything possible that will help us achieve that in the shortest time frame. I want to congratulate them yet another year, but this time I also want to assure them that they will see a difference. Seafarers, see the welfare of the seafarers are absolutely important. Like I said, we started this program. We need to review it, and definitely there are many lapses, there are issues that could. Like I said, what is critical about seafarers is to ensure that we protect them, because we have. I think I mentioned it. We have some seafarers that are languishing in foreign jails, and nobody seems to. Let me not say nobody. We haven't done anything to either assist them to get out or to find out, or even have the data on that. So how did they end up there? It's from unscrupulous ship owners who don't want to pay up, and they just find something and they leave these poor boys and girls there, and they move on, and we just continue life as we know it. We have to do something about that. Therefore, what is clear is that we have to protect local seafarers from the unscrupulous ship owners. At the same time, we have to look at this issue of unscrupulous seafarers and protect the ship owners. So it's important that there has to be a middle. We're not trying to invent the wheel. This is how the Philippines have been doing it. This is exactly how India has been doing it. That we have to protect both sides, and by doing that, one of the things that we want to ensure is that Nigeria will be the country that provides the crew, the seafarers, within the maritime sector in the whole continent of Africa. It's after we conquer Africa, we move to the rest of the world. So how do we do that? Firstly, we need to have code of conduct. We need to sit there and ensure it's not just about the identification tag. We need to look at pensions for the seafarers. We need to look at the medical insurance. And you know how it is in other climes where before you get on board, they've paid. You know, they pay in advance so that you can pay, leave money for the families and what have you. But that's not the case here. And sometimes who markets the seafarers? Who goes off? In the Philippines, in every embassy across the world, they have a unit where they go off and market, their seafarers. So firstly, we need to find a way that who and what body can do this. They've done it. This is the best way to go. So maybe we're definitely looking at the way it's been done in other climes to offer the Nigerian seafarers the same. Now you talked about sea time. Yes, remember I said earlier that because a lot of our vessel indigenous ships have gone, we now have to pay people to go on sea time. I mean, the MASA, I think, is about to clear the backlog of all the cadets who haven't had sea time. But guess what? We still have a lot of them in Maritime Academy who have still, years upon years later, haven't. I was speaking with the Chief of Naval Staff recently just to see how we can look at owning a training vessel. We don't have a training vessel. They don't have a training, neither do they. Once upon a time the Navy had their own training vessel. We don't have a training vessel. You know how expensive a training vessel is. But imagine like one of the marching, I don't like the word marching order, but one of the things that we said to Maritime Academy is that government has, since the inception, we're going to calculate how much government has spent on the Maritime Academy and feel that it's about time. You just talk about private sector people going out to go and start. We need to have a situation where in the next 5 years or so, Maritime Academy must be self-funding, must go out and get the students. We have an advantage within the region because the Regional Maritime Academy in Ghana is not actually up to what the one in Oran is. We have all the right equipment, a lot of sophisticated equipment that many don't have across the whole of Africa. So what's the problem? So we need to go up, go market, go move it, to ensure that more people go there. So those are the sort of issues, and that's the message I want to give out to the Nigerian seafarers. I thank them so much because, especially also the issue of female seafarers. I've had serious meetings with them in the office. We've talked about it, we exchange ideas. They've given me documentation and what they also feel, and also share their experiences with me. And this is how I know a lot of these things. And that is why we know that we really need to revisit the manner in which we are conducting seafaring in Nigeria and recruitment. First, I remember back in the day when I was at National Assembly, it was the University of Lagos had a unit, and you had a department, and then now we moved to the stage where everybody's, well, not everybody, a lot of people actually built, started maritime universities, institutes, you name it, maritime, they have it. Like you said, the issue has been the quality, and this has affected the way that our seafarers are looked at internationally, because when you can't, there's no integrity in the certificates that these cadets or potential cadets have. It affects the entire industry. Part of it is to also go back to those who register university commissions and Ministry of Education to look at some of the curriculums and also have an input when they're accrediting them. The accredited ones, that those ones are actually easier to deal with because it's just through the agency's Ministry of Education that register them. But going forward, the Ministry of Transportation, especially NIMASA, should be able to have an input in deciding and looking at the curriculum that it actually meets the required standard, and that required minimum standards, IMO standard. Now, the ones that the mushroom ones that just spring up from nowhere, those ones have to be taken down. I mean, and each time I think it's important that maybe what we'll do is to like ensuring that the public where the accredited ones, and telling people, doing an awareness program of buyer beware sort of thing. That might help for potential students to go and check with NIMASA if the institution that they're trying to get into or attending actually are accredited. And then the third and the most important one is also to help them prosecute some of these institutions. If I've spent money and time and I've gone to the institution, your institution was not accredited, there's a breach of trust, there's a breach of contract. So I think maybe once they're successful in doing one, maybe problems takes forever to get a court case. But then again, we shouldn't shy away from that. That is the quickest and best way in which to stop that. Many people are willing and eager to invest in Nigeria, also willing to lend money within the maritime sector because they know the potential of that sector. So yes, we are speaking with some international agencies to look at it. We also have, there's a French company that's already said that they have about $3 billion that they want to invest either through direct financing or what have you, solely within the maritime sector. The thing about money is that, having money without having the project, I rather would go the other way around. Have the project, then go look for the funding. That way you don't go and borrow money that you are not necessarily ready to use as at that time. And you can just continue borrowing money and giving governments sovereign guarantees or what have you, whereas you're not particularly ready for it. So the best thing is what we're going to do, go back. We've done all the briefing now, is to go back and sit and now look at the immediate projects that need to be tackled and the cost of those and the area in which we can do it. and then you look at the short term, medium term, and long term. Now the agencies, luckily within the maritime sector, the agencies are quite buoyant. They also make a lot of revenue. We need to ensure that they are collecting what they ought to collect, and what we can reduce, we do reduce. So there can be a lot of, it's a good thing. A lot of people will be willing to assist and lend because they can see the records the past 20 years of what Mimasa MP and NIWA itself is coming up now. You see the NIWA is able to do things because they're also getting part of that port development levy we've been at for a while. If we're as serious as we are about increasing non-oil exports, yes, and revenue, we have to look at things like fishing, minerals, and have dedicated ports. I keep using the example of Mauritania that only has a population of 4 million, and its two main exports, one the agricultural export of fish. It has a whole port that's dedicated to that, and then one of iron ore. It has a port dedicated to that. So if Mauritania can have four ports, even though I don't know, I'm sure you're aware that people say, "Oh my gosh, we're having too many ports." It's not just. It goes back to what I was saying about CBFF and the fact that if you leave it to the stakeholders, majority of them, you will see that it will skew towards the wet cargo for the oil and gas. But what we need is to have an array. The same thing with the ports. We must have some dedicated ports for export. We must have some dedicated terminals for export. We must have even within our export, there are different types of export. Even for agricultural export, and some you need refrigerated areas and what have you, and then you also have those for the minerals. So definitely we need to do that. We need to, and funny enough, fishing was something that was discussed amongst the local countries, that we feel that how we can forge, because what COVID did was show to us that it's probably better to have a closer synergy with my neighbor next door than some that are thousands and hundreds of thousands of miles away. So we've now started to look at how we can have closer ties, better trading with our neighboring countries. And one of the areas we looked at was this issue of fishing and how people have taken advantage of it. And we have foreigners just help to bring fishing, dragging their nets in and overfishing in our areas. So definitely it's something we look at. Think of all the airports in Europe. The bus system is just to the left, the trains to the right, and there's a ferry to the left. It's never done in isolation. But that's because it's one agency, one ministry doing all that. Yes, and we just talk about intermodal, without necessarily sitting there in the planning. If you're going to build something across the water, every agency that is involved in water must have a say. There must be a way in which you clear and make sure that the height is the right height or what have you. Not trying to create more bottlenecks, because the problem here already is a bottleneck. And sometimes, as I say this, I myself shudder at the thought of the paperwork and where people have to, all the different places you have to visit just to be able to go ahead. But there has to be better synergy. It is a problem. And as the population of the world grows, that becomes a major issue. That's on that side. On the other side, comes back to the barges. Again, there's certain things that as we do in so many other countries, they'll tell you certain heights of vehicles can't pass through here. Yes, because they also built bridges and built things that in the past, and things have changed and grown. So we also need to do that. It isn't just because I'm a flatbed barge, I can just load it up and go. You might have to go the longer route, yes. So it's a case of give and take on both sides, and having established rules where this is where places like NIWA and people come in. The barges, certain barges higher than X cannot go through this area. And yeah, so I think that's just the best way to go.